Hey, so this is a video about the astrology of 2025. There is so much going on in 2025. I'm gonna call this the year of dipping our toe into an ocean of change. Um, there are major, big astrological shifts happening in 2025, but it's also a year of endings and completion of certain cycles, and then a move into something brand new, completely new energy. But then everything retrogrades and we get like one last backtracking. And then in 2026, we're full in it, like full in, full steam ahead with everything in its new kind of energy set. So let's talk about what that looks like, both on a more collective level, but especially, I'm here for you as a personal one-to-one individual astrologer. So instead of just thinking of what I'm going to say and what other astrologers are saying about the upcoming year as predictive and certainly not deterministic of like your life and the world situation, think about it more as guidance for now that I'm aware of what might be happening and playing out on a universal level. How do I integrate that and personalize it in my life? How is this impacting me? And the best way to do that is always to look at your own chart, right? So the fact that Pluto moved into Aquarius in this year and is going to stay in Aquarius for the next 20 years, that's a big cosmic collective event. But that may or may not have major significant impact in your chart. It depends what it's doing in your chart. If you've got that Pluto at 0, 1, 2, 3 degrees of Aquarius sitting right over your sun or squaring your moon, that's going to have a bigger impact in your life and what that means for you, rather than just the general assertions about what's happening in the cosmic kind of realm. So anything I say, you're going to want to look back to your chart. If you are not at the level astrologically where you know how to look at your own chart to understand what's in what signs and what's, in what aspects, what's conjunct or trine or square or in opposition to what I'm talking about, then the best thing to do is actually to reach out to me or any other astrologer that you trust and work with to help you make sense of for yourself what are the big impacts for you this year? Okay. So I'm also going to put in the bottom of the notes here, I'll give you the significant dates of things. I'm going to speak more general to some of the energies. So the first thing I already mentioned is that Pluto did make its move into Aquarius in 2024. It's going to stay there for the next 20 years. Um, on a collective level, right? Pluto is what's called a transpersonal planet. And actually, a lot of the big shifts happening this year, 2025, are transpersonal. So Pluto has shifted into 0 degrees of Aquarius. Neptune is moving out of Pisces, which it has been in for 14 years, and which it rules the oceans and water. And it is moving into Aries this year, which is a fire sign. Um, Uranus has been in Taurus in a grounded earth sign for the last 7 years. It is moving, shifting sign into Gemini, which is an air sign. So those are big cosmic shifts because those planets move so slowly. They're what are called transpersonal planets. They move so slowly that they affect the entire collective. They affect our psyche, our human journey. They affect a lot of big things for everyone. And again, how it then also is impacting you on a personal level depends on the placements in your own chart. Okay, so Pluto into Aquarius. Aquarius is all about humanity. It's about thinking out of the box, finding alternative, new, unconventional solutions that help to pull humanity forward so we can evolve. And Pluto itself is about evolution. So Pluto in Aquarius often has been throughout history associated with times of revolution, times where the common people, the populace, sort of revolt and rebel and say, we want more democratic fairness, we want more power. So there are power struggles with Pluto. Pluto is also associated with death, with tragedy, with loss. But ultimately, Pluto is about how are we transforming? How are we evolving? And Aquarius is very much of we need to evolve to have more equal, fair distribution and caretaking of humanity as a whole. So we're going to see, we've already seen the shift in regime in Syria. That is a Pluto Aquarius. We've seen, kind of populist revolutions and, calls for all kinds of social justice. That is going to be a continuing theme. We've also seen the birth of artificial intelligence and AI, and Aquarius is technology. It's new technology and new ways that humanity might be brought forward through innovation. So AI, nuclear energy, nuclear medicine, changes in currencies, and how we're moving into a much more digital and robotic age. We're going to see a lot more change over the next 20 years with Pluto in Aquarius. Um, Neptune. Neptune is moving into Aries this year. Aries is the sign, it's the first sign of the zodiac. It is a cardinal fire sign. It's about jumping into action. There's a sense of bravery, boldness. It's a very masculine sign ruled by Mars. At its very highest, Aries is about self-awareness and self-discipline and knowing your own will and what you're willing to act, to protect, to defend, to fight for. What is so important to me that I have goals around it, that I want to win it, that I'm willing to fight and defend. Um, at its kind of shadow level, Aries can be a kind of hyper aggression, rage, anger, frustration, this kind of like acting before you think, and just impulsive, kind of call towards action and or violence. So what does it mean that Neptune is moving into Aries this year? We also have Saturn moving into Aries this year, and Neptune, Saturn are going to be doing a dance together. Their exact conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries doesn't happen till 2026. So again, this is a year of we're testing out. We're doing this slow entry of like, oh, what does this new energy and experience feel like? And then it's like a slow roll, like again, that dipping the toe. And then we're going to kind of ease out. And then we're going to dive right in and go full under in 2026. But Neptune at its very highest is about transcendence. It's about connecting to something on a soul level, spirituality, ideals, visionary, what we can imagine is possible. And in Aries, Aries is brave and it's bold. So on its highest, Neptune in Aries might look like we have really soulful visions for ourselves and we're willing to take action on them. And maybe, we're braver and more action oriented instead of just getting stuck in like, oh, it's a fantasy, it's a pipe dream that could never happen. And instead we jump in. And with Saturn moving into Aries, Saturn is about commitment, perseverance, doing the work, taking responsibility, being accountable, having a plan and a strategy. So Saturn in Aries might also look like, what do I want? What is my will? And if I say that this is what I want, I need to have a plan. I need to have a vision. I need to, create like step by step what that would look like, how it would unfold, and I need to do the work. And I need to hold myself accountable for that and what I put forward, and maybe be a little less impulsive, more visionary and strategic about what I really want to accomplish. That would be an amazing use of Saturn and Neptune together in Aries. The more dangerous level of it is Neptune in Aries might be, holy wars. I have this vision of God, and God told me to murder and kill. That's not a very healthy, peaceful, we don't want to see that in the world. We already do see that in the world, but that could look like, out of control violence and war from a place of, well, this is what God wants. Okay. Um, you know, what else do I want to say about that? How we choose, there's a lot that goes on in the collective in the world that's beyond our control. And then there's what we can control, right? And actually, it's interesting because Neptune and Pisces, where Saturn and Neptune have been in Pisces, that's very much about surrender, knowing what we can surrender and having faith, right? And allowing ourselves to be informed by a higher awareness or a cosmic perspective of that there's something way beyond what's on the material realm, that we're not seeing the full picture, but we trust that there's a reason and an unfolding, and we're going to adapt to that and flow with that. Aries is a little different. It's very self-oriented. So, we're going to see what that means for us on a personal level. And I want to say that it's interesting because the nodes and eclipses over this past year and a half have been on the Aries Libra axis, which I've spoken about in past videos you can look at. But the North Node in Aries is that we've had lessons to learn about, this is actually great, the fact that this preceded the coming transition of Saturn and Neptune into Aries, that we've had a year and a half of learning new lessons and getting outside of our comfort zones and having to do important karmic work around what it means to deal with our own anger, our own frustration, our own violence, our own desires, our own impulsivity. And we've done work in the last year and a half. So think for yourself about the work you've done about yourself, on yourself, versus vis-a-vis the South Node has been in Libra, which was about kind of looking at what's our comfort zone, what's easy about relationships, what are the patterns we fall into, but also maybe we've broken some patterns around, just trying to keep everybody happy and trying to just, do everything for the sake of others at the expense of ourselves, and how we've learned to, like, well, there's a time and place to assert and advocate for ourselves. And maybe that is equally important and needs to be in balance with how we maintain and do peaceful relationship. Now, as we've kind of started that preparation, Saturn and Neptune move into Aries. But the nodes are moving, they're always moving backwards. They're moving into Pisces and Virgo. So that's the other big news happening in 2025. And that is something that you can look at personally in your own chart. So with the North Node in Pisces, we have lessons to learn around our own spirituality, around cleaning up our old messes that we've inherited karmically, ancestrally, what is no longer serving us on a soul level, and what are new soul activities that we really need to push ourselves to really come into deep connection, awareness, integration around. Now, that work has begun over the last 2.5 years with Saturn being in Pisces, right? And I've spoken to that in other videos about Saturn and Pisces and committing to a spiritual practice, whether that be meditation, journaling, gratitude, but really understanding that it helps us to have a structure of time and space that feels sacred, where we can go into that aloneness, where we can connect to our own soul. I did another video that you definitely should check out, which is the tarot for 2025. And the tarot for this coming year is the Hermit. And the Hermit is the one who goes off the grid and kind of withdraws a little bit in certain times and places to find illumination and revelation on a spiritual level. Um, this whole next year and a half with the nodes, the North Node in Pisces, the South Node in Virgo, the very day-to-day practical, what's on my schedule, what's in my calendar, what meetings, what appointments, what are the have tos and shoulds, what is the work that I'm doing, what are my responsibilities in the actual world. The South Node there is having us look at what our habits and patterns are there, and maybe how do we break certain not so healthy, not so adaptive, you know, um, kind of habits that we have around our own need to control, our own need to micromanage. Where do we want to soften around this kind of putting too much faith into what we can see and touch and do and what we can control versus like how we need to surrender certain faith. And the reason I got onto this whole tangent, which is not really a tangent, is because I think this year is going to require a lot of faith of from us. The world is going to be changing in all kinds of ways, and it might look scary. It might look like I don't even know where I fit into this new, some of us who are younger might be more adaptable. Some of us who are older are like, oh my gosh, the world, like, when is it, stop the wheel, stop the ride, I want to get off kind of energy of things are happening really fast. And there's something about knowing what you can control and what you need to surrender control around. There's a balance, right? Do what you can to work on the things that you can impact in your life and in the world and in those you care about in your communities through your job as service. Virgo is also about being of service. So manage what you can and be of service, and also know where you need to surrender and say, there are things beyond my control and even beyond my understanding, right? There are certain things that are a mystery on the divine cosmic level, and the unfolding of those things will be revealed. Okay, so what else is big change for this year? Uranus is moving into Gemini. Gemini is the most hyperactive kind of sign. It is a mutable air sign. It's ideas, it's information, it's conversation, communication, language, it's movement of the body, movement of ideas, physical travel. Uranus is this, it's all about awakening and sudden flashes of aha, awakened insight and change, the impetus to change. So with Uranus in Gemini, I think there's going to be very fast, high speed kind of energy, high nervous system energy, especially around what we're communicating, how we're communicating, what information. I mean, we think we're already in the information age, and everywhere we go, there's constant, we're all wired in and connected into constant flow of information. I think this is going to ramp up even to an unprecedented level that we have never seen before in our lives. I think very positive, along with the Pluto Aquarius energy, since they're trining, Uranus and Pluto will be trining between Gemini Aquarius. It might look like a lot of new innovative technologies that help us translate and communicate with people across all language barriers, right? It might just be like instantaneous translation so that people of all different languages can speak and understand each other. We already have things like that, but the speed at which that is going to be available is going to blow us out of the water in terms of, again, our access to information. Now, that could be a blessing and that can also be a curse. It's a double-edged sword, right? Information overload, mental thinking overload can really just get our nervous system completely out of whack. So we're going to need grounding practices this year. And there's really not any earth energy at all this year. Everything is shifting from earth and water signs, which are more feminine, more in the heart, more in the body, more grounded, to very masculine fire and air signs, which is about constant motion, doing, movement, thinking, rationality. Um, we're going to really need to be intentional this year about how do I come back to my body? How do I come back to my soul and my heart? How do I disconnect from all of the information? Again, that hermit energy, please watch that video and have a strategy for yourself. Where and when and how do I take that time to disconnect and get regrounded in what is truly, truly important and not just be at the mercy of the constant flow of information that is bombarding me. Um, Let me see what else. Oh, the really nice thing this year for Jupiter, Jupiter is moving out of Gemini on in June, and it's moving into Cancer. And that's our like saving grace of the year, I feel like, because amidst all that very masculine, hypercharged, very like angsty energy, Cancer is the sign of compassion, empathy, intuition, emotional awareness, and nurturing. So Jupiter expands and wants us to grow around whatever sign it's in. So with Jupiter moving into Cancer this year, we're growing in our capacity to have compassion and empathy for ourselves and for others. And, I would really also say always, I'm a big proponent of connecting to your intuitive, inner wisdom. With Jupiter in Cancer, there's a real like boost, support from the universe for us to do that work, to start really tapping into and trusting our intuition more and really feeling what we feel and not just jumping in without feeling first and not just like over analyzing things just from the brain, right? That's the one saving grace that helps remind us that we need to take whatever's up here and reconnect it to what's in here so that whatever decisions we make are coming also from a heartfelt place. And that's the difference between AI robots telling you what facts there are when you do your search on Google and your heart intuiting what feels right and what else, what's the other level, what are the other layers to this? And that's going to help us do that. Um, what else do I want to share with you? The eclipses this year follow the nodes. We have a total lunar eclipse in March, followed by a partial solar eclipse in March, and then another set of eclipses in September. I'm going to do videos about those, so we'll talk more about what those eclipses are, where they're happening. Um, that you're definitely going to want to look at that in your own chart and see if and where those eclipses are going to be bringing about some new revelation, insight, growth, change for you personally. Um, what else? We have a Mars retrograde. We're in it now, and we're going to be starting the year with Mars retrograde. It's going to be retrograding through Leo back into Cancer before it moves direct again. I think I'll do another separate video on that. But I do think that this will be a year that is asking us to look at this dance within ourselves and within the world between the masculine and the feminine, because Mars is opposing Venus. There's a lot of Mars Venus dancing together this year, which is our outer drive and our inner personal values. Our, need to win, and then our appreciation of beauty and harmony. Our masculine and more kind of active aggression, and our softer, like, I can be receptive, I can hold space for. And it also is going to be this question of like what we're charged up about on a sexual level, on a passion level, and then where we really are very more connected to our core values that are our non-negotiables, right? That, this is what's most important. So I think there is going to be some of that going on for us this year as well. What else do I want to share with you? I guess the last thing I'll share with you is cycles. So, as an astrologer, to me, what's really fascinating and what I love to explore with people is over the course of your life, the journey of when things come back around or hit you at certain times in your life and what they're trying to evoke and help you grow around in your own life path, right? So, Pluto moving into Aquarius, none of us have ever experienced that in our lives. These slow moving planets, the Pluto, the Neptune, the Uranus transits, we've never experienced those. This is brand new energy for all of us living in this realm at this time. However, Saturn moving into Aries, that happened 29 years ago. So you can look back at the last time Saturn was in Aries and think, what was happening in my life at that time? Right? What did that mean for me personally? Jupiter has a 12-year cycle. So Jupiter was moving from Gemini into Cancer, 12 years ago. And you can think back 12 years ago, 24 years ago, what was happening? The eclipses and the nodes moving into Pisces and Virgo, that cycle, that nodal return cycle, is an 18 and a half to 19-year cycle. So the last time the nodes were were in the Pisces Virgo axis was June 2006 to December 2007. So you could think about what was going on in my life at that time. What lessons was I learning? What did I need to grow around, and what was hard for me, and what did I let go of, and what did I change around with those eclipses in 2006, 2007? And the last time before that was March 1997 to September 1998. So I hope that that gives you some information also about like, let me think about what this year might hold for me based on where those things will be in my chart. And of course, I am here to do that work with you. So I would love if you want to reach out for a 2025 astrology session to take a look at what you can expect. Like, what are the big themes for you in this year? There's the collective universal themes, and then there's the personal. What changes are you going through based on your age and your life cycle events and what is hitting you where? So, you know how to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm wishing you a very good, happy, healthy, peaceful 2025. And I'll be back soon with more as we go through month to month together.